Ed O'Neill's from Youngstown.
Yeah.
All the good ones are.
Yeah.
I met him at the MDR club.
Oh yeah, you sang out there. What was that place in Lowville you used to go to too? Was Scarchetti's or something? I don't think it's there anymore.
Yeah.
But he used to always go down there too.
But he liked the MDR club. And I was going to school at Chaffin.
Uh-huh.
And I went there for lunch. And
now you call it Chaffin. I call it Chofin.
I call it Chofin.
As a Youngstonian, you know, I'm not like one of these country. I know you're one of them country guys from out in Amish country, practically.
I'm like, is it Chofin? Like I'm like, wait.
Yeah, Chofin. No, you ain't from around these parts, boy.
I mean, that they told me when I saw
you ain't a Youngstonian.
And I've been coming here since I was a kid. I'd go see my uncles every summer. It's like it's where my heart belongs.
I'm still good.
So.
I'm gonna, but you know.
I met him though. He was cool. I got my father an autograph from him. The guy that was working there was a roommate with Bernie Kosar in college.
Uh-huh.
JT was his name. And this was back in the 90s.
Yeah, man. You look at all the people from Youngstown. You know, Bernie Kosar, Ed O'Neill, Boo Boo Mancini.
All the good ones.
Yeah, yeah.
But what a nice guy he was, you know. And JT's like, we'd go there for lunch because we'd have a break. We'd have so many hours at the classroom. Then we take a break and then we come back and go in the shop. I'm studying to be a machinist.
Yeah.
So we go there for lunch, you know, and JT.
So there it is. You could actually see it from here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
JT
brings
like,
back
hey,
some memories, huh?
You guys ought to stick around. Ed O'Neill's in town. And this young guy that was with I used to work with his father. He was real young. He goes, who the hell's Ed O'Neill? He says, El Bundy.
He's a Youngstonian.
He said, who the hell's El Bundy? I said, married with children, man. I mean, come on, you know. But he came in and JT's like, well, don't stare at him or nothing. We want, you know, I'm trying to. And he said he'll come in and he had this big bill, Cleveland hat. The bill was like this long, man. You could hardly see his eyes or nothing. He said he'll go over there and sit down and order his meal and he'll take his hat off. And so I'm looking out of the corner of my eye after a couple pictures of beers waiting on him, you know, and I see that bald spot on his head. You know? So I waited. He goes, he'll sign your autograph for you after he gets done.
Not now that you pointed out the bald spot.
Yeah, no, you're off the list. I hope you got one then because you're
sitting
done,
at
buddy.
the bar drinking beer, you know, I'm about 3 sheets in the wind. He comes up there and pays his bill, and you know, I got enough nerve to ask him, hey, you know, could you sign an autograph for my father? He goes, sure. What's his name? I said, Earl. So he signed. Best wishes, Earl. Ed O'Neill. He signed El Bundy underneath. That was pretty cool. You know,
I tell you what, that Married with Children was a funny show when that first come out. That was like the
Hooters.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It defined the family of the 80s, early 90s. Like I thought all families were like that.
Yeah. When he scored 4 touchdowns in the championship game against what was his name, Spare Tire Dixon, and they had the rematch, you know, years later. That was a funny show. But I'll tell you, he is a true Youngstown guy too. And he talks about it everywhere. I mean, you see him on any TV show, you know, they get him on ESPN and stuff because he had a tryout with the Steelers.
Yeah,
he got cut from the Steelers. And, but you know, I mean, he is Youngstown like through and through. And when he gets on all these shows, that's all he talks about is Youngstown and these bars and this and that.
Steel mills.
Yeah.
He worked in the steel
the
mill.
mob. He worked with the mob for a little while and all this crazy stuff. He was the manager at the pub at YSU for a while and just all kinds of crazy stuff.
He was a bouncer.
Yeah. Yeah. And
what a great guy though.
The craziest one. I'd never seen that show Modern Family before. Also, how about him in his career that he could go from El Bundy and have the biggest show and then go to Modern Family and also have a hit show with a completely different character. You know, a lot of times once you play El Bundy, you're done.
Yep.
You know, you're Urkel, you know, you're Radar O'Reilly, you're Klinger, you're done. But he was able to come off of El Bundy.
Hot Lips.
Yeah. Yeah. And you come off of that and you're that's who you are. But he was able to pull that off. So the one day I just happened to click on, you know, never seen the show before. Now, you know, I've heard about it or whatever, but I just happened to, I click on and he's on there and with this national DJ called, his name is Phil Henry. And he used to do like this crazy radio show where he would be the guest and the interviewer. So he would disguise his voice. You know, he'd talk and do the interview, but the person he was interviewing would always be so far off the charts and saying all this crazy stuff. And, you know, people would get pissed and then call in, you know, and the guest, which was him, would just be going off. And it was just like a crazy show. And it went on for a few years. But anyway, so Phil Henry's on there, right?
Yep.
And so wouldn't you know it, I'm watching this and he goes, I'm going to go meet your old, he goes, I got to, his son-in-law said, I got to do this business deal. And he goes, I'm doing it with this guy named Booker Bell. And L. Bundy, you know, Ed O'Neill goes, Booker Bell, you got to be kidding me. He goes, Booker Bell was my favorite DJ growing up in Youngstown, Ohio. And it was about boots.
Yeah.
You know,
that's cool.
And it was about boots. And they start doing this big thing. And it's all about him being from Youngstown on the show and Booker Bell, Boots Bell, being the best DJ and all this stuff. And the whole episode was about that.
Yeah,
and
cool.
I'm watching that and I call up Boots' son. I said, did you ever see this show, Modern Family? He goes, no. I said, they just did a big tribute to Boots on there.
Wow.
And I said, they had a character on there named Booker Bell from the radio in Youngstown. And Ed O'Neill was just gushing over this guy and next thing you know, the Vindicator wrote a story about it, you know, and the Vindicator wrote a story about it. And then his son, Chris, who passed away, unfortunately, at a young age, he was a stagehand. And we were down.
He was a bass player too.
Yeah, he was a bass player too. Yep. And so we're down at the Jim Trafficant Memorial Service at Powers Auditorium. And I made a speech, believe it or not. Well, you could probably believe that. So anyways, I get up there, you know.
Pretty good.
But anyways, and Boom Boom Mancini was there. So me and Boom Boom are, you know, backstage hanging out. And I see Chris. And I think Chris had knew Ray. And, you know, I had told Ray about, because I don't think he knew about the thing. Ray gets on the phone, calls up Ed O'Neill, and hands the phone to Boots' son.
Wow, how cool.
And and Chris is on there talking to Ed O'Neill about his dad and everything. And it was just like, that was just so freaking cool, you know?
It is.
And just for, you know, Ed to be that gracious and, you know, and being a fan and, you know, just think your dad was on the thing, you know, Ed O'Neill, you're on this big TV show, the biggest TV show at the time.
Successful.
And then next thing you know, they mention your dad and you're talking to Ed O'Neill on the phone.
That's awesome.
Courtesy of Boom Boom. That was pretty wild.
That's that Youngstonian heart.
That's that Youngstonian heart. That's right.